Have you ever stood still while the world laughed around you? Have you ever felt the sharp blade of humiliation slice through your pride, while your heart begged for a response your mind refused to give? Have you ever known, deep inside, that the best revenge is not rage, but a transformation so vast, so undeniable, that the ones who hurt you can only watch in stunned silence? Today, I'm going to show you how to rise from public humiliation with a power so deep, so unshakable, that words won't be needed anymore. No fake positivity, no shallow advice, just the raw truth, shaped by the fire of Stoicism and the kind of self-mastery no one can take from you. Because when someone tries to rip your dignity apart in front of others, the real victory isn't shouting louder than them. It's becoming so formidable that their laughter turns into regret. If you feel this message pulling at something inside you, you already know. This journey isn't about them, it's about you, and it begins now. By the way, if you crave insights like this, the kind that don't just sound good, but actually change how you walk through the world, you'll love my newsletter. Every day, I share lessons forged from real battles, practical, brutally honest, and life-altering. Now let's begin. There are moments in life where you realize that not every insult deserves a reaction. Some deserve something far greater, your complete and utter silence. One evening, I found myself surrounded by laughter. A small mistake, a stumble over words, a misstep anyone could have made, became a weapon. And he, the loud one, the attention-starved one, seized it, twisted it, fed it to the crowd like a king tossing scraps to the masses. They laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was easier to laugh than to stand alone. I stood there not because I had nothing to say, but because I chose not to give him the satisfaction of my energy. I gave him nothing. No anger, no defense, just a small nod, a silent agreement, but not with him, an agreement with myself. You have your moment now. Later I will have my era. From that day I disappeared, not as a coward, but as a strategist. No social media posts, no group chats, no desperate explanations. I went to work, silently, relentlessly. I woke up before the sun. I trained harder than ever. I devoured knowledge. I built discipline where once there had been only habits. I shed distractions like dead skin. Every small choice was a step away from their laughter and a step towards something they would never touch. I didn't seek to show them. I sought to build myself. 6 months later, I was a different man. Sharper, stronger, quieter. But my presence, it spoke volumes. And then, like clockwork, the message came. From him, asking for advice, asking for guidance. The man who had laughed the loudest was now whispering for help. But the best part? I didn't need to answer, because my existence already had. When you grow in silence, you become undeniable. When you choose results over reaction, your enemies have no choice but to bow, even if they never say it aloud. So when someone mocks you, don't feed them with your rage. Feed yourself with discipline, and let your results slap them in the face harder than any comeback ever could. There's another move even more brutal than silence: public invisibility. Pretend they don't exist. Ignore them not because you're afraid, but because acknowledging them would be lowering yourself. I remember another betrayal. A man I once trusted took my private confession and turned it into a joke. He laughed. They laughed. I didn't. I simply looked through him, as if he had ceased to exist in that moment. And from that day forward, he did. No texts, no greetings, no shared laughs. He became air. Months passed. While he stayed the same, I sharpened every dull edge inside me. And one day at another gathering, he approached. Awkward, fake smile plastered on his face. "Hey man, we good now?" I looked at him, paused just long enough for the silence to pierce through his bravado, and then walked away without a word, in front of everyone. Not with anger, but with complete indifference, because you don't have to punish those who humiliate you. You punish them simply by living a life they're no longer allowed to be part of. By becoming something they can't reach, can't touch, can't joke about. Your silence is their mirror. Let them see their reflection. Let them sit in the emptiness they created. Because when you ignore someone publicly, you starve their ego to death. And the world notices. They respect you not because you roared, but because you stayed still and still won. There's also a time to speak, but only once. When someone disrespects you, the natural urge is to explain yourself, to defend, to seek understanding. Don't speak once, clearly, calmly, and then close the door. I remember sitting across from a man who thought belittling me in front of others would earn him power. He laughed. They laughed. All eyes turned to me, waiting for my explosion, my defense, my collapse. Instead, I said, "If that's truly what you believe, then I have nothing left to learn from you." No anger, no sarcasm, just truth. And then silence. He chuckled nervously, looking around for someone to save him. No one did. Because strength doesn't shout, it stands, it speaks once. And the silence that follows becomes a roar. Speaking once does three things. It carves your words into memory. It shows confidence so rare that it unsettles the insecure. It flips the burden onto them, to scramble, to backtrack, to drown in their own noise. You owe no one repeated explanations. Your piece is too expensive to sell for cheap approval. And then there's the move they never see coming. Humor as a dagger. When someone mocks you publicly, they expect anger. They are prepared for your outrage. What they can't handle is your laughter. The calm, devastating kind. Not laughter to hide fear. Laughter that says, "You are too small to wound me." One meeting, one loud fool tried to question my competence. His voice was sharp, baiting me. I smiled. I said, "You're absolutely right. Let's all slow down to your pace." The silence afterward was surgical. No screaming, no ranting, just a calm dismantling of his attempt at dominance. Humor, when used correctly, devastates more completely than rage ever could. It confuses the aggressor. It wins the crowd. It leaves scars they'll never quite heal from. Because long after anger fades, a well-placed line lingers. But even sharper than dismantling an enemy is realizing who stood silent while you bled. And cutting them off too. There's a brutal truth few are willing to face. It's not only the ones who mock you that betray you, it's the ones who laughed with them. The ones who stayed silent when their voice could have changed the moment. The ones who, out of fear or convenience, chose comfort over character. And those are the ones who must go first. When you're humiliated, look not just at the enemy, but at the bystanders. Because loyalty isn't what people say when they toast you in victory. Loyalty is who refuses to laugh when you're low. I remember sitting among people I called friends. When the cheap shot was thrown at me, I didn't flinch. But when I heard the laughter, not just from the loud one, but from the familiar ones, it felt like ice cutting through my chest. I didn't react. I didn't scold them. I simply noted it. And from that day, my circle got smaller, sharper, cleaner. Because anyone who laughs while you're bleeding will betray you again, when it's even easier next time. Cut them off, without announcement, without ceremony. Silence is the only warning they deserve. Because when you silently remove yourself from those who betray you, you protect your future. Your loyalty is too sacred to waste on those who see you as entertainment when you're vulnerable. Remember, every person who stayed silent while you were humiliated already showed you their true colors. Believe them. But what happens when you remove the enemies, the traitors, the noise? What's left? You. And that's where the real battle begins. Because now it's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about building something so real, so vast, that no attack can ever reach you again. After I cut the wrong people out, my world grew quieter. At first, the silence felt heavy, lonely, unfamiliar. But over time, I realized something extraordinary. Silence isn't loneliness. Silence is soil, the rich, untouched ground where real roots grow. While others filled their lives with noise, cheap distractions, hollow validation, I was building. Morning after morning, night after night, not to impress them, but to rebuild me. I studied when no one asked me to. I trained when no one cheered. I worked when no one noticed. And in that unseen forge, something new was born. A man who no longer needed applause to feel alive. A man who no longer mistook company for loyalty. A man who no longer needed to explain himself to people too small to understand. And as I rose, I realized the harshest, most beautiful truth of all. You don't rise by seeking revenge. You rise by becoming untouchable. Your success, not your anger, will be the loudest noise they hear. Your growth, not your words, will haunt them at night. Your silence, not your explanations, will echo louder than their laughter ever could. Let them watch, let them wonder, let them whisper. While they're busy recycling the same shallow jokes, you'll be writing a story so powerful they won't even know how to read it. Because when you level up silently, your absence becomes a presence. Your detachment becomes dominance. Your life becomes a masterpiece they can only view from behind the glass. Never touch, never alter, never reach. But here's a deeper layer, a truth most ignore. Your biggest enemy isn't the one who laughed at you. It's the part of you that still wants to be understood by them. Kill that part. Kill it completely. Because true peace isn't when they stop mocking. True peace is when you stop caring. But here's a deeper layer, a truth most ignore. Your biggest enemy isn't the one who laughed at you. It's the part of you that still wants to be understood by them. Kill that part. Kill it completely. Because true peace isn't when they stop mocking. True peace is when you stop caring. And now you understand the path. The moment of humiliation was never a defeat. It was a spark. It was the fire at the bottom of the mountain you were meant to climb. And everything that followed, the silence, the solitude, the discipline, the cutting off, the rebuilding, the rising, it was all the making of a version of yourself so solid, so powerful, that no insult could ever fracture you again. You were not broken, you were forged. And now when you walk into a room, you don't need to shout. You don't need to defend. You don't need to explain. You carry yourself in a way that demands respect without a single word. Because respect is no longer something you seek. It's something you embody. And those who laughed, they'll recognize it, even if they never say a word, especially because they never say a word. Because some defeats are so complete, so absolute, that there is nothing left to say. And now here's the paradox no one tells you about respect. The less you seek it, the more you command it. When you detach from needing validation, when you operate solely for your own evolution, people sense it. They can't fully explain it. They just feel it. They sense the quiet confidence that doesn't need to dominate because it already owns itself. They sense the unshakable peace of someone who cannot be baited into meaningless battles. And ironically, those who once mocked you, they become your unwilling admirers. They may never congratulate you. Their pride won't allow it. But in the private chambers of their own mind, they know. They remember how they laughed, and they realize how small that laughter looks now. Because when you grow past them, they lose the language to speak to you. Their jokes, their games, their small ambitions, none of it touches you anymore. You're playing a different game, at a different level, in a different league, and it all started because you refused to react. You chose to rebuild instead. You chose the long war over the short fight. You chose transformation over retaliation. The journey from humiliation to domination is not glamorous. It's lonely, it's silent, it's filled with nights when you question yourself, mornings when the weight feels unbearable, moments when giving up would be easier. But that's what separates those who stay broken from those who rise unbreakable. Every rep you do when no one is watching, every book you read when others are scrolling, every sacrifice you make when no one is clapping, it all adds up, it all compounds, and one day it manifests, not with fireworks, but with presence, the kind of presence that changes the temperature of every room you walk into. Not because you're loud, but because you're undeniable. And here's something else to understand. Your new life will cost you your old one, the old friends, the old habits, the old comforts, even parts of your old self. You have to be willing to let it all burn. You have to be willing to become a stranger to your former life, if that's what it takes to honor the man or woman you are meant to become. Because if you try to bring everyone with you, if you cling to the old familiarities, you'll end up dragging anchors while trying to fly. And you were born to fly. You weren't made for shallow waters. You weren't made for half-built lives. You weren't made to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. Let them go. Let them think you're arrogant. Let them think you're cold. Let them think you forgot them. Because the truth is, you didn't forget them. You just remembered yourself. You see, greatness isn't something you stumble into. It's something you bleed for, sacrifice for, choose again and again, when it would be easier not to. It's saying no to immediate pleasure for long-term power. It's saying no to old invitations for new elevations. It's saying no to being liked in order to be respected. And most importantly, it's saying no to the smallness others tried to trap you inside. Let me tell you something brutal. Some people loved you better when you were broken, when you were uncertain, when you were chasing their approval, because your weakness made them feel strong. But when you start growing, when you stop apologizing, when you build yourself from the ashes of their mockery, you become a mirror they can't stand to look into, because you show them what they chose not to become. And not everyone can handle that reflection. Some will resent you, some will avoid you, some will slander you. Good, let them, because their discomfort with your evolution is confirmation that you are on the right path. You are not here to stay relatable to the people who once doubted you. You are here to become legendary in ways they can't even pronounce. You are here to set standards so high that they look up and can't reach. You are here to build a life that forces them to change the subject when your name comes up. Not because you said anything, but because you became something. And now, if you understand nothing else from everything I've said, understand this. The most dangerous man is the one who has mastered himself, not the man who wins arguments, not the man who shouts the loudest, not the man who has the biggest following, the man who can sit in a room full of insults and remain unmoved, the man who can hear laughter aimed at him and remain still, the man who can take humiliation, betrayal, isolation, and use them as building blocks for an empire no one can tear down. Self-mastery is the final form of revenge. When you reach that place, no one owns you. No insult sticks. No rumor derails you. No betrayal breaks you. You become inevitable. There's something majestic about becoming inevitable. It's not about fame. It's not about applause. It's about walking through the world with a quiet gravity so intense that no cheap insult, no petty slight can alter your course. Imagine moving through life where their mockery is just background noise. Imagine becoming so focused, so aligned with your mission, that even the people who once tried to break you become invisible. Imagine waking up every morning with a fire that needs no fuel from others, because the fire burns inside you now. This is the true final form, not louder, not more aggressive, not more reactive, just deeper, heavier, stronger. But let's be honest, getting there is not easy. There will be nights when you question everything. Nights when the loneliness feels like a weight on your chest, when you wonder if the sacrifice is worth it, when the memories of old laughter creep back in, whispering that maybe, just maybe, you should have stayed small. Ignore them. Breathe through them. Because that discomfort is the death cry of your old self. The part of you that sought comfort over greatness. The part of you that needed to be liked more than it needed to be respected. The part of you that mistook surviving for living. Let it die. And in its place, something indestructible will rise. Growth is violent. It destroys old friendships, old habits, old mindsets. It demands that you let go of everything that no longer serves the person you are becoming. It demands that you grieve for who you were, but not stay trapped mourning. Because while others cling to old versions of themselves, you will be evolving. Relentlessly, ruthlessly, beautifully. And yes, it will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you acceptance. It will cost you relationships that were never real to begin with. But what you gain is priceless. You gain yourself. You gain a life crafted on your terms. You gain a peace so powerful that even in chaos, you stand still. And one day, maybe years later, you will cross paths with those who laughed. Maybe you'll see them at a reunion. Maybe you'll pass them on the street. Maybe their name will pop up in a conversation, and you will realize something extraordinary. You feel nothing. No anger, no bitterness, no desire to prove anything, because you're no longer playing on the same field. You're not even playing the same game. You didn't just move on, you moved beyond. And they stayed exactly where you left them, trapped in cycles of gossip, small talk, cheap validation. You became the person you once needed when you stood alone in that room full of laughter. You became the proof that humiliation is not death, it's rebirth. Here's the final truth. The strongest form of revenge is not hatred. It's not success. It's complete indifference. Indifference born not from coldness, but from wholeness. From knowing so fully who you are that the opinions, the approval, The existence of those who once mocked you simply ceased to matter. Their laughter belongs to a past you have outgrown. Their voices belong to a world you no longer inhabit. Their memories belong to a version of yourself you lovingly buried on the journey to becoming who you are now. And so, the next time someone laughs at you, mocks you, tries to break you publicly, remember this: you are not obligated to defend yourself. You are not required to match their energy. You owe them nothing. What you owe is to yourself. You owe yourself the discipline to stay silent when your ego wants to scream. You owe yourself the strength to walk away when your pride demands you fight. You owe yourself the patience to build in obscurity when your heart craves validation. Because the real battle is not between you and them. The real battle is within. Between the part of you that wants immediate satisfaction and the part of you that knows the long game is the only game worth playing. Choose the long game every single time. Because temporary applause fades, but legacy is forever. You walk into a room filled with people who once laughed at you. And you don't flinch. You don't puff your chest. You don't scan the room for approval. You simply exist. Fully, completely, unapologetically. And without a word, the atmosphere shifts. They feel it before they understand it. A gravity around you, dense, quiet, undeniable. It's not arrogance, it's not revenge. It's presence. Presence earned through silent mornings no one saw. Through brutal nights when giving up was easier, but you refused. Through countless small victories no one clapped for, but you celebrated in the stillness of your own soul. They sense it. They know they are standing in the presence of someone who doesn't need them anymore. And it terrifies them, because deep down, they remember when you needed them, when you sought their laughter, when you mistook their acceptance for love. And now you need nothing from them. And that is a power they can neither comprehend nor replicate. Here's the secret they never teach you. When you no longer seek to prove anything to anyone, you become unbreakable. When their validation no longer moves you, their criticism no longer wounds you. You transcend the game they're still trapped inside. And you watch, not with anger, but with quiet compassion, as they repeat the same cycles you've long since outgrown. Because the real flex isn't clapping back. The real flex is evolving so far beyond their understanding that they mistake your silence for superiority, when in truth, it's mercy. You don't argue with them anymore. You don't defend yourself. You don't even think about them, because you're too busy building a life they can only watch from a distance. And there's another truth you'll discover on this path. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Holding on to bitterness ties you to them. It anchors you to the moment they tried to define you. Forgiveness cuts the cord. It says, you no longer get to live in my mind. You no longer have access to my emotions. You are no longer part of my story. You don't forgive because you're weak. You forgive because you're tired of carrying what doesn't belong to you. Their actions, their words, their betrayal. None of it belongs to you anymore. You returned it to sender, and now you move lighter, clearer, stronger. And once you reach that state, your life takes on a different texture. You become deliberate in how you move, in how you speak, in who you allow near you. You stop entertaining gossip. You stop chasing shallow connections. You stop giving energy to people who wouldn't bleed for you. Because you understand, every ounce of energy you waste on the unworthy is an ounce stolen from the empire you're building. And your empire, your vision, Your future deserves better. It deserves a you that is ruthless with your focus, ruthless with your standards, ruthless with your loyalty, not cruel, never cruel, but clear. Clear about who you are, clear about what you allow, clear about the life you are crafting with your own hands. There's another layer to mastery few people talk about. It's not just about building yourself. It's about defending what you've built. Because once you evolve, the old world will come knocking. Not because they care about you, but because they recognize your new value. And they want to benefit from it without paying the price. They will approach you, smiling, apologizing, pretending nothing ever happened. They'll say, "It was just a joke. You're too sensitive. Don't hold a grudge." But you know better. You know that energy once tainted doesn't cleanse itself. You know that loyalty once broken isn't stitched back together with apologies. And most importantly, you know that the standard you enforce after you rise defines whether you stay risen or fall back into the pit you clawed your way out of. So when they come knocking, you don't need to slam the door. You don't need to rage. You simply don't answer. You continue forward, unbothered, unapologetic. Because the future you're building doesn't have space for passengers who cheered against you when you needed their support. Because trust, once shattered, isn't patched, it's buried. Respect isn't given for good intentions. It's earned through action. And some bridges are better burned than crossed. You must learn this skill, the skill of silent discernment. Not every invitation deserves your presence. Not every apology deserves your forgiveness. Not every smile deserves your trust. As you rise, become harder to reach, not to be arrogant, but to be effective. You are no longer just living, you are building. And builders don't have time for the circus. Builders protect their time like it's gold, because it is. They guard their energy like it's sacred, because it is. And they choose their companions like a general chooses soldiers, because not everyone deserves to go to war alongside you. And now another brutal truth. You will be misunderstood, no matter how pure your intentions, no matter how disciplined your actions. You will be misunderstood by small minds. They will twist your silence into arrogance. They will twist your strength into cruelty. They will twist your standards into ego. Let them. Do not waste one breath trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. They are not your audience. They are not your mission. They are not your burden. Your only responsibility is to stay true to the vision that pulled you out of your darkest moments. Stay true to the fire that kept you warm when no one else believed in you. Stay true to the man or woman you are becoming, not the version they are comfortable with. Growth requires loneliness. It requires separation. It requires being willing to be seen as the villain in stories where you were actually the survivor. Accept it. Own it. Move through it. Because the people meant for you will recognize you without needing an explanation. And the ones who don't, they were never meant to come along anyway. And when you walk through life this way, something amazing happens. You start attracting different people. Stronger people, clearer people. People who see your growth and don't feel threatened. They feel inspired. People who challenge you, sharpen you, expand you. And suddenly you realize the circle you lost was never your tribe. The tribe you are building now, they are warriors. They are architects. They are kings and queens building empires beside you. And you understand, everything you lost wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The universe wasn't punishing you by removing people. It was clearing the space for the right ones to find you. Every storm you survived, every humiliation you endured, Every lonely night you fought through was sculpting something within you, a patience, a strength, a resilience so rare that when you finally step into your season, you won't need to announce yourself. You'll simply be undeniable. You won't need applause. You won't need validation. You won't need recognition from those who once dismissed you, because you'll have something far greater: self-certainty. And in a world addicted to external approval, self-certainty is the rarest superpower. You won't just walk differently, you'll move differently, you'll think differently, you'll choose differently. Because the person you have become doesn't need the approval of those who couldn't see your value before. You are no longer building for them. You are no longer living for them. You are building for your legacy. You are living for the promise you made to yourself on the nights you almost quit. And that promise is sacred. Protect it, honor it, live it. And here's something else you'll notice. The higher you climb, the quieter it becomes. Fewer crowds, fewer distractions, fewer people pretending to understand the path you're walking. And that's a good thing, because clarity thrives in silence, because vision sharpens in solitude, because greatness demands focus that can't be diluted by the noise of the unworthy. The air gets thinner at the top for a reason. Not everyone was built to breathe it. Not everyone was built to handle the discipline, the pressure, the weight of true excellence. But you were. Every scar, every setback, every betrayal you survived was preparing your lungs for higher altitudes. You are ready. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. And nothing, no mockery, no betrayal, no loneliness can take that away from you now. So the next time you are mocked, the next time they laugh, the next time you feel the sting of public humiliation, smile. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because you know something they don't. You know that this moment is not your burial, it's your planting. And from this soil, soaked in your silence, your sweat, your sacrifice, something unstoppable is growing. You, the real you, not the one they tried to break, not the one they tried to mock into submission, the you that no insult can bend, the you that no laughter can belittle, the you that rises, silent, steady, sovereign. You see, life isn't about proving yourself to those who mocked you. It's about fulfilling the potential you glimpsed when you were at your lowest. That vision, the one that kept you moving when your legs were trembling, the one that whispered, "Keep going," when your mind screamed, "Quit." That vision deserves to be honored, not with words, with action, with relentless commitment, with day after day of silent, brutal, focused work. The kind of work that makes no announcements, the kind of work that requires no permission, the kind of work that one day demands respect from even the most stubborn doubters. Because results, real results, speak louder than any insult ever could. And they speak in a language everyone understands, even those who once pretended you were invisible. But even as you build, there will be new tests. Every new level you reach brings new challenges, new critics, new betrayals, new battles you must fight quietly. Understand, growth doesn't make life easier, it makes you stronger. And stronger doesn't mean louder. It means becoming so solid that chaos feels like a breeze against a mountain. So grounded that even the worst storms barely shake your foundation. Because the goal isn't to avoid adversity, it's to become so unshakable that adversity avoids wasting its time on you. There will always be people who try to minimize your journey. They'll say, "You're lucky, you changed, you forgot where you came from." Let them. Smile, Not with spite, but with understanding. Because they're right, you did change. You were supposed to. You outgrew the environment that made smallness seem safe. You outgrew the people who were comfortable seeing you doubting yourself. You outgrew the cycles of guilt, insecurity, and approval chasing that they're still trapped inside. You didn't forget where you came from. You remembered where you were going. And that destination, the future you glimpsed in your loneliest nights, was always bigger than their comfort zone. The truth is brutal but freeing. If they could have gone with you, they would have. If they could have matched your discipline, your patience, your sacrifice, they would have. But they didn't. Not because they're bad, but because they weren't willing. And that's not your burden to carry. That's not your guilt to bear. You were called higher. And higher always means fewer. Fewer distractions, fewer compromises, fewer companions, but far greater impact. So here's what you owe to yourself, to the you who stood silent in humiliation, to the you who kept going when no one believed. You owe it to yourself to keep climbing, to keep sharpening, to keep evolving, to keep choosing discipline over drama, to keep choosing destiny over distractions. You owe it to yourself to become so whole that the opinions of broken people can no longer penetrate you. You owe it to yourself to turn your silence into strength, your setbacks into blueprints, your scars into armor. Because one day someone will look at you, the life you've built, the man or woman you've become, and they'll think it was easy. They'll think it was natural. They'll think it just, happened. They'll never see the nights you fought yourself, the mornings you rose before the sun, the sacrifices you made without applause. And that's fine. They don't need to understand your journey. They don't need to know your battles. Only you do. Because this journey, this life you're carving from the stone of your own will, was never about them. It was always about you. And so, when the next storm comes, when the next laugh echoes, when the next test presents itself, smile. Not because it's easy, not because you're unbreakable, but because you've been here before. And every time you didn't just survive, you rose stronger, sharper, quieter, greater. The world may never clap for your resilience. The world may never understand your silence. The world may never celebrate the way you turned humiliation into fuel. But you will know. And that knowing, that private, unshakable knowing, is worth more than 1,000 empty cheers. And that is the real secret they never tell you. You don't become respected by fighting for attention. You become respected by fighting for yourself, quietly, relentlessly, unapologetically. And one day when you no longer need their laughter, their approval, their applause, you'll realize you didn't just rise, you transcended. Because when you look back, when you trace the map of your life with all its valleys and peaks, you'll realize something even deeper. The humiliations weren't detours. They were landmarks, markers that pointed you toward the strength you didn't know you had yet. The betrayals weren't mistakes, they were filters, clearing the space for the real ones to arrive. The silences weren't voids, they were invitations to meet the version of yourself that didn't need noise to feel alive. Everything happened exactly as it was meant to, not to destroy you, but to define you, to strip away the layers that were never truly yours, to reveal the raw, unbreakable core you were born with, but had forgotten somewhere along the way. And now you remember. Now you walk different. Now you speak different. Now you think different. Not because you seek to be different, but because you finally remembered who you were meant to be all along. A force, a presence, a storm wrapped in silence. A living, breathing testament to the truth that no laughter, no insult, no betrayal can destroy what is destined. Only delay it, only refine it, only strengthen it.